Hello, this is Gene. I decided to move to a different place in the house, basically because my daughter's back from college for her internship, and she's doing what people do her age. They're playing games and not really looking forward to their future. So she's just basically being a kid, and I don't know. She's got an interview tomorrow. Uh, but this video is not about her. This video is about the race baiter named Lebron James, a guy that has so much of a huge platform. Was it 41 million people follow him on Twitter or Instagram? And he continually plays this, that black people are the victims when it comes to everything. So today he came out and said that white people or white players are, black players are held to a different standard than white players. And I find this so fucking unbelievable because I talk about this shit on my channel before, how I think there's been a systemic change how coaches look at athletes. And I think there was a systemic thing that said that they're going to basically raise up people who are similar talent, but if you're black, then they'll continually choose you because normally you might be coming out of a bad situation and they'll get more out of you, whereas maybe the white guy might come from a place that has some more privilege, more money, and maybe won't have as much effort. And this has been going on a long time in this country, and all you gotta do is look at the leagues. I've said it before that if we're going to talk about IQ on this channel, and we're talk about when it talks to group dynamics, that there is a difference between quote unquote the white race versus the black race, let's say. Not all, of course, but on a overarching area, there's about one deviation when it comes to IQ between quote unquote is the black races versus the white races. You say that, all the studies point to that, but you're called a racist for saying it. And so I'll say the same thing when it comes to athletic quotient. And I've said it before on this channel. I don't think it's the same level, but I also think that the way that sports are played are more geared to their physiology when it comes to their body. So it's not strange that they dominate some of these sports. But when somebody who is in a sport that is 90% African American, and he says that somehow white players have a different level of guilt, let's say, or they won't get fined as much just because they're white, not because if he looked at each one individual cases and said this is why they did this and why he didn't. His first belief is it's because he's white. This is another racist statement from a guy who the president said correctly in my mind, he's basically dumb and low IQ. I doubt that this man ever went to any, when he was a boy, I doubt he went to any class that he actually had to do when he was in high school. I doubt that he did anything there because his formulation is based on this, saying again that the black people are victims. And this is a guy who's a multimillionaire, and he did this thing with the school. It's a good thing in theory. Of course, it didn't really change. He didn't have to pay anything for it. He's got his name on the school, so he has this thing, this legacy for himself. But he continually tells everybody that the game is stacked against black people in this country. And I'm just tired of him to do this. He has an opportunity here, and I'm hoping some of the other guys out there, like Mr. Tatum comes out and Peterson comes out, not Dr. Peterson, but Jamie Lee Peterson, the black talk show host, comes out. Lucas, who has his own channel, Candace Owens, although I have some problems with her. I hope they come out and just rail over him for saying stuff like this, because he has got so much influence in the black community. The NBA is like the sport. That's the thing. That might get them out of where they're at. And so somebody who's considered one of the greatest of all time that continually says this, it just tells these young boys that, you know what, you're going to be a victim all your life. And if you don't get where you need to get, it's really the white man's fault. And this is not a message that we should be telling to our kids in 2018. this country, as bad as you might think it is, the liberals out there, the socialists or whatever, that continually just beats our country to death, even though they love everything about this country and their iPhones and everything that they get for fairly cheap. And they just basically live under our labor. All the people on the left, so it's a labor of us, and just bullshit. And he has a great opportunity here to do something about this that can really help millions of black young kids to get out of this mindset that's the white man, that it's keeping them down. Individually, clearly it's not me that's trying to do it. I have no issue, even though I can tell you about on IQ, on a group dynamic, that their IQ is a little bit lower than a white person as you look at it as a group dynamic. Of course, there are white guys that are stupid as fuck, and there are black guys that are smart as fuck. But a group dynamic that we're trying to do, that we're trying to hold them down. That not this generation, not my generation. This idea that this country has become so progressive when it comes to this like this, and half of white people believe this shit. They'll applaud LeBron saying this shit today, but it ain't coming from me. All you're doing is, it's like you're destroying the black community already. You already have 77% single mothers in the black community. Why don't you talk about that? You won't, because you don't want to define or defile the black goddess or whatever of the single woman. You talk about this, even if it was true, which is not, but if it was true, who cares? I mean, to be honest, these are privileged athletes. First of all, it's not true. Every case is looked at individually, and I didn't look everything. He didn't put any examples of it, but most of all the sports in this country are pretty much dominated by people of color. I mean, this is not anything new, and it's something new that, well, it is, over the last 20 years. And I've said before in this channel that there's something more here. If white people don't want to play these sports, that's great, but I think there's more here. And it's strange to me that really a sect of society is about 4%, being between 18 and 35 of black males that are dominating these sports, that then they're over 60 to 70% of all the people in these sports. And he still thinks that the white man is stopping the black man from having a career. And this is not the first time he said this shit. He says, walking around as a black man is very hard in this country. I mean, okay, at the very basic level, that when we look at people that are different than us, we have some hesitancy there, okay? It happens on both sides. Black people are not immune by this. They see white people, regardless of what they've seen in media, but when where their brain is formed enough that they can look at something that's different than them, you have a cause or a column there, or a pause there. You don't necessarily want to equate to be with those people, okay? As you get older, you realize, oh my God, they're okay, so I'm gonna hang out with them, and you do stuff like that. That's why we have a lot of people in the city that are different colors that live together. It has its own issues, and it's not always great to be all homogenous, 90% white or whatever. But at the same time, these guys that think that they're really advocating for something, they're not. They're going to push the black community even worse, or they're going to continually fail because they're not. He is not addressing the clear problem in the black community. He's not. Why can't he go out there with the pastors to talk about this? Why can't he go to the White House and say we need to do something about men staying in the house? Why would he do this? He won't do that because he can't even sit across the table against President Trump. And everybody knows that Trump is an icon in the black community before he ran for president. And he is becoming Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all this other. He's basically being used by the left, and he's like the good black man now because he's trying to get his cred back. So yeah, we want our athletes to maybe talk about shit like this, but they don't. They're talking about things that are not so irrelevant when it comes to the bigger problem in the black community or the white community, not having the fathers in the home. And if the fathers was, if we had an issue where it was 20% single mothers in the black community, uh, they would be doing really goddamn well, and nobody would be blaming the white guy anymore. Just because 90% of owners are white, we're still the majority in the country. It's hard to get you guys to take all of the money, that the power that these people have. It's going to still be there for a long time, even when we are going to be the minority in this country. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it's coming. It was 90% when I was born. It's 62.5 now. So it's very possible in my lifetime that we'll be there. But it's not going to be black people. They're going to be the majority anymore. It's going to be Hispanics. And I've talked so many times on this channel about blacks and whites need to be together on this, either from whatever. They just need to be together. I don't like to say blacks as a community or whites as a community. As Americans, we should be together, because the blacks and the whites founded this country. Obviously, we founded it, but we brought black peoples from Africa over here, and they're part of the fabric of this country. And yes, there was oppression, and there was slavery, and there was all this other shit. But while I've been alive, well, maybe still people will look at you differently because you look differently. It had nothing to do with the ability that you have. You might have some areas, you might have some more obstacles than anybody else. And maybe because you're white, or excuse me, black, maybe those obstacles are even worse. But I'm going to tell you where it all comes from. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the black community, the black family was similar to the nuclear white family as well. The pay was very similar. How much the worth of the family was very similar. But when we decided that we're going to give women the right to kill off babies, and we allowed the federal government to be the daddy in the house, we took away responsibility from the children. Women on their own, grouply, not just, individually, sometimes single mothers do great jobs and they raise great kids and great boys to become great men, okay? That happens. But overall, the statistics are clear that single mothers is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to the black community. But they want to raise them up like they're the icon, they're the epitome for women, just to not have a man in the house, and the federal government's going to pay you. So this circle jerk happens where the woman's on welfare, the boy has no guidance, no mentorship, no guy, father type figure in the house. At some point, the woman cannot control the son. The son wants to basically spread his oats, be more independent. He goes in with gangs and around there, and he gets small. You see, he goes to jail, and now he's in the system as well. Mom's in the system, and it continues over and over and over again. And then there are so many guys that are very feminized in the black community now, comparatively, than what it would be. And it's that way as in the white community as well. The soy boy phenomenon, where guys that are 20 years old have lower testosterone than me, and I'm 53. So it makes no sense. But nobody wants to talk about this, and then we do, we're saying, oh, that's all bullshit, or we hate people, or we're racist, or misogynist, or whatever. But why is it somebody that has this type of platform who could make a huge amount of change in the black community if he really wants to do that? He has this school, but I just would love to see what the curriculum is going to be in this frickin' school. Is going to be this leftist cultural Marxism shit about white privilege and oppression and the hierarchy of how bad you are on that victim hierarchy that you are. I mean, it's like they're fighting over each other to be at the top of that victim thing. It's like everything that's going on now, it's like, oh, pay attention to me because I'm the most victim here. So it's infuriating to me. I wish that Tiger